Hello and welcome into the Bobcast presented by Frostburg State's Office of Athletic Communications. I'm Andy Stanko, and today I'm chatting with men's soccer head coach Keith Burns. And men's soccer this past week, a big win over Penn State Harrisburg to put the Bobcats, keep them alive in playoff contention, and give them a big tiebreaker. And then a really tough loss in overtime, 1-0 against Salisbury on Senior Day. That overtime loss occurring off of a penalty kick. So Frostburg's 3-5 going into the final game of the season in conference play. The Bobcats must win against Southern Virginia and have either Penn State Harrisburg or Salisbury lose on Wednesday as well. PSH plays Mary Washington. Salisbury has Wesley. None of that matters without a Frostburg win. So, Coach, looking at this past week of soccer, your team didn't allow a goal, in the course of play against Penn State Harrisburg, Salisbury, even the game before that. What have you liked out of your defensive group in those 90-minute periods of scoreless soccer?
I think they've done a very good job of limiting their mistakes, being more organized, having good shape. So collectively, the last three games, they've been a very strong backbone for us to keep us in the games. And then obviously the penalty kick's unfortunate, but overall defensively, I think their organization and their just commitment to defending and just playing safe and simple when they need to and taking risks when the time was appropriate is why they've been successful the last couple of games.
And you've been in games because of that defense. I look back on last Wednesday. Penn State Harrisburg came in as one of the highest scoring teams in the conference, number 2 in goals and goals per game behind Christopher Newport. Juan Bofel able to get a shutout win, your team 2 second-half goals. Against Harrisburg specifically, how were you able to control that game, and especially in the second half?
I thought our possession was good, so our style of play hopefully dictated the game. I thought we built out of the back and then got the ball in the middle part of the field, and then in the attacking third. And it was just one of our better games all around overall with possession and just, again, I think limiting the mistakes, whether it's just poor first touches or poor decisions on our passing and our execution. It just allowed us to generate a better offensive game and find spaces and possess the ball against a team that, obviously wanted to win as bad as we did.
Yeah. Why do you think your team was able to limit mistakes and have possession more in that game than perhaps games we've seen earlier in the season? What made it such a successful outing, if you can identify it?
I don't know if we can identify it. I think it was just a matter of time. I mean, we always knew we thought we were talented enough. We thought we typically worked hard enough. Sometimes we were unlucky. Sometimes we caused our own bad luck, and we were just kind of waiting for things to kind of come together, which hopefully is where we're at now. Hopefully things are more together, and they still, they've seen the results when they've done what's been asked of them, what they've been training for the last 2 months, and most of the results have been positive. So if they can keep that up, then, hopefully things continue to go in that trend.
Yeah, it all comes down to this week for men's soccer. Talking with head coach Keith Burns here. We go to Saturday against Salisbury, and it was a similar script as the Marymount Penn State Harrisburg game, scoreless first half, but then neither team able to get on the board in the second half. And when you look at the numbers, you outshot Salisbury 13-7 over the course of the first 90 minutes. They fouled you much more than they had 24 fouls over the course of the game. Did your team, in your opinion, really control the game for the 90 minutes? We talked about composure at halftime. What did you make of Salisbury in regulation?
I just thought it was an overall competitive game. I mean, neither team had great scoring opportunities, even with our 13 shots. I'm not sure how many were on frame or how many were that dangerous. And the same for them. I mean, they didn't really test us too much. It was the flighted balls in the box, you got to deal with long throw-ins, corner kicks, where things get dangerous. But through the run of play, I thought we defended well, and it was pretty much back and forth. I thought we got a little bit tired at the end of the second half. I don't think we stopped working hard. I think fatigue just sat in a little bit, and it allowed them to kind of pump some balls forward and kind of put us on our toes right at the end of the second half. But overall, yeah, I thought we played pretty well. I would have liked to have seen a couple more scoring opportunities. But the defense was strong, and again, we took it to overtime and just had an unfortunate play, and that's soccer sometimes.
Yeah, it is sometimes, and you look at your 5 conference losses, and 3 of them are by a single goal scored either in the final 10 minutes, the final minute, or overtime. Close doesn't get you in the playoffs, but are some of those results indicative of what your team can do in terms of competing with those playoff teams should you beat SVU and get help to get into the playoffs?
I think so. I mean, I think we're in every game. Even Newport, I think that's the team we're reaching to be, but the other ones 2 through 6, I mean, I think we're right there with them,
Yeah.
and I'll take our chances against any of them.
Southern Virginia on Wednesday. None of these permutations can be put into effect without winning that game. What is it that Southern Virginia offers in terms of the challenge that it has, and how is the preparation this week for it?
Well, the preparations for a first-round playoff game.
Mm-hmm. That's what it is.
Exactly. We lose, we're done. We win, we have a chance to go on. So we're preparing for a playoff game. The focus is more about what we have to do rather than what they do. But they're that dangerous team because, sometimes when you have nothing to play for, you're a little bit more carefree and, anything can happen. For us, there's definitely some pressure to the game because it's a must-win. So, we'll see. I mean, I'm confident in the boys. They'll respond. Again, the last couple of weeks has been the better part of our season. So, we just have to put Salisbury behind us now and basically prepare for a playoff game.
Absolutely. We're all rooting for you, Coach. Frostburg, Southern Virginia on Wednesday. Bobcats need a win and some help to get in. Coach Keith Burns, thank you for joining us on the Bobcast.
All right, thank you.
Next up on the Bobcast, we have men's and women's cross-country coach Dale Louie. Cross-country idol this past week. The big one coming up this Saturday, the Capital Athletic Conference Championship meet this weekend at CNU. And talking to Coach Louie, Coach, how was the week off? How did your team spend it? What kind of workouts were you working on, and any injury concerns from the past week?
Well, we definitely were focused on our training, trying to get the hay in the barn, so to speak, this past week. And we had some very good practices, particularly on the men's side. It seems like most anything that we've been throwing at them, they've been blown through, very, very strongly. The women, as we've mentioned the last couple of weeks, are going through some injury problems. We probably will only run about half of our women's team at the conference meet, and beyond injuries, there's some other academic issues that are going to keep some of these people from competing.
And looking, we've talked all season about, Christopher Newport and then the regional being different kinds of courses. Can you once again take us through Christopher Newport's course and how you can specifically prepare for that course after this season, running courses more similar to the regional?
Mm-hmm. What we've tried to do with the Christopher Newport course, because our understanding is it's extremely flat. It's about like a track. It's got some repeat loops, it appears. So we have been trying to increase our tempo in our workouts, and we've been trying to find some flat places around here to train. And that's about all you can do besides mentally preparing yourself for the fact that it's going to be a different kind of racing that typically you see in true cross country. It's track on turf is really what we got this weekend, and we'll have to respond to that.
And speaking of that different kind of racing, in terms of the strategy that your team will use versus what you'll expect to see from other teams, what goes into those decisions, and ultimately what are you looking for out of your team in order to execute whatever it is you want to do?
Yeah. Well, the biggest thing really is you've got to keep your head, and we say this all the time. This weekend is no different. You have to run your race. This is an opportunity to run as a team from the standpoint of we don't see a lot of CAC schools during the course of the year because so many of them are so far away from us, and there's no mandate that they compete against each other in cross country or track. So that's the big challenge there too, because, and that's why the teammates become important, because you know how your teammates run, the pace of your teammates, and you hope that on your team they've got a few people that keep their heads and in a big moment like that, and the rest of the team works off of those individuals.
That's interesting with the CAC being so spread out. Are you throughout the year kind of keeping an eye on the other teams, or these last 2 weeks seeing what they've been up to? How does that work out?
Well, it's difficult in cross country because the courses are so different, week to week. And if you're familiar with the courses, you can get a little sense of what the other teams have been doing, what they're capable of doing. But other than that, I mean, really the mantra is take care of ourselves, try to run the best we can, and that's all you really can do.
Yeah, and here we are at the end of the season, and we talked about this a little bit during the year. Are we at a point where the women's team is a little banged up? The men's team, are they peaking in terms of performance with your scoring runners?
I think they are. The women that have run consistently for us are really in the same boat. In fact, I think some of those women have probably more of an upside at this stage of the season than maybe some of our men. And what I mean by that simply is they've been coming off of some issues and playing some catch up. So the incremental improvement might actually be bigger on their side than on the men's side. We anticipate fast times, unless it rains down there and becomes a mud hole, which if it rains, our understanding is that will be the case. But again, we're kind of used to that. We've had that situation a number of times at conference championships and things. So that's, I really think, going to matter less to our team than maybe some other teams.
In your career as a cross-country track and field coach, do you see in a championship environment runners going faster in terms of their times throughout the season versus at the end of the year, racing for something more?
Mm-hmm. Your better runners do really respond to the competition, and maybe I didn't say that quite right, from the standpoint. Sometimes your better runners, some of them get caught up in the moment, and they're not used to that pace. Mm-hmm. So that's one of I say to our team all the time, I don't know if it goes into their ears and stays there between the ears, but it's not unusual to go to a championship race, particularly at the national level, or even sometimes at the regional level, but you tend to find it sometimes more at the national championship. The number of people who are walking at some point in the race or dropping out because it's everything they got. Some of them lose their head, and it feels good for a mile, but you got 4 more to go, and it catches up to some people, So that's one of the things that we are very concerned about in a championship environment, and throw in again the flatness of the course. It's something that we've been talking about, quite frankly, for about a month and a half.
That's an interesting dynamic, and teammates are really important to keep everyone together.
Right.
And I'm really looking forward to it.
Some people think that runners just go out there and run, but you'd be surprised in cross country in particular the amount of talking that's going on while the race is going on. And,
really?
Some of that is positive, some of it's negative. But there is quite a bit of that going on. Most people aren't aware of that.
I'm interested to see how this all shakes out. Last year, the men finished 5th, the women finished 8th. Can you see either or both teams improving on their finish from a season ago?
Well, that's certainly our goal. Again, we haven't seen some of these schools. We haven't even seen much in terms of some performances to compare with some of these schools. But we're feeling good with where we're at with the people who've been working hard, and that's what you just got to then go down there and perform. And I think the mindset of the people who've been putting the work in has been that they are looking forward to this. And as a coach, I think that's a good sign that they're ready to roll.
Well, it should be fun. It's Saturday at Christopher Newport University Cross Country Championships. Dale Louie, thank you so much for joining us on the Bobcast.
Thank you very much.
Next in the Bobcast, we have Becky Fletcher, volleyball head coach. Volleyball, a tough week. 2 strong CAC opponents, Mary Washington and CNU, both able to get by the Bobcats. So Frostburg now in a big situation here coming up with Marymount. The winner of Frostburg Marymount gets into the playoffs. The loser goes home, so the playoffs start early for Frostburg. The Bobcats also have St. Mary's to close out the regular season. So looking at this past week with Coach Fletcher, Mary Washington, it looks like Mary Washington has two strong hitters, kind of like Southern Virginia. What made it a challenging match for your team against them?
They have more than two strong hitters.
Mm-hmm.
They're a very good offensive team. I think that defensively we hang really, really well with them, but we just weren't able to finish some points on our end. So we kind of made a lot of errors. We made a lot of service errors against Mary Wash, which is something we don't typically do.
No.
So if you look at our stats, Lindsay had 33 digs that match, which is 11 digs per set, which is just
outrageous.
Studly. She did a great job, but we need to do a better job of getting our hitters available in transition and being able to finish some of those points.
And looking at that match, of course, what pops off the page is Lindsay Sapura and her digs, and Gianna Carmona seems to have a larger role as the season goes on. At the beginning of the conference season, only a couple sets she appeared. She had as many attacks as Nia Cheatham did in that match. How has Gianna's role, or G as you call her on the team, increased this season, and then what has Lindsay been doing anchoring your defense?
Gianna has come a long way. Being a freshman, I think learning to pick up the speed of the game. It's always surprises people by how much faster it is than they expect it to be. She offers us a really great block as an outside hitter, which is part of the reason she's been having some opportunities to play and having some opportunities to get some great swings in as well. She knew that she needed to come in and work hard and develop a big offensive attack for us, and she's also learned a lot about blocking this weekend, playing some pretty fast offensive teams.
Mm-hmm. And then Lindsay Sapura doing it defensively year after year after year. What could you say about her performance against Mary Washington?
She's just awesome. She had such a great match, and it kind of stinks that we weren't able to finish some points on our end and maybe even be as aggressive on the service lines, so that way we weren't always on the defensive. I was talking to their coach after the match, and he was just like, seriously, I told my team to stop hitting at her because you're not going to score. And that's kind of exciting, and that's a really great compliment to her for how she played, and it's just true of how she always plays. She's one of the most consistent players, if not the most consistent player competitively I've ever coached.
One of the cornerstones of this team. Looking ahead here with Coach Becky Fletcher at the CNU game. CNU's the top team in the CAC in terms of the standings. This game was close. You look at the first set, even at 8 before they went on a big run. The third set, only down by a couple points in that first third of the set before CNU was able to pull away. What makes them such a great team in this conference?
CNU always comes out firing on all cylinders. They're always extremely aggressive on everything they do. So they're aggressive on defense, they're aggressive on offense, they're aggressive at the service line. So there's never a break in a match against CNU, and you never get a time to breathe, and you need to make sure that you're coming at them with as much aggression and as much passion as they are against you.
And now at this point in the year, you've seen just about everyone in terms of the upper echelon of the conference now seeing Mary Washington, CNU. You were right there with SVU, and what was a 3-1 game, but a close one. Salisbury went 5 sets. What is the formula for a Frostburg volleyball team to play against and knock off one of those top teams? Because it seems like you've been right there on the cusp several times.
So we just have to all be on our best game. So we have to be serving well. We have to serve-receive well. We didn't actually serve-receive well this weekend, which is a battle we usually win, the serve-receive battle. We need to make sure that we're blocking well, and blocking well doesn't necessarily mean that we have to block every ball, but we're doing our job of setting a good block and making sure there's no holes in the block so our defense can play as great as they usually do behind us. And then more importantly, we got to have some transition offense. We got to get our middles involved.
Yes.
We got to get Nia Cheatham involved. We got to get our outsides involved, and we've got to be taking good, smart swings and placing the ball in great spots.
This week, with Marymount being a game that essentially is a playoff game for your team, what's the preparation like? What are you emphasizing in this week in practice, and you expect it to be a good one?
Today we're actually taking the day to have a little fall festival with some pumpkin carving and some apple cider and some soup. So it's going to be a pretty laid back day for us. So that way our bodies get just an extra day to rest and heal up. We've been battling a lot of injuries this year. So we're hoping that extra day and just kind of mental day of relaxation helps our team, and then we'll hit it back hard Tuesday. There's not a lot that I think that we need to change. It's just a matter of polishing up a few little things. Maybe work on a little bit of serving, obviously a little bit of serve receive, and making sure our hitters know where they need to be attacking this weekend.
Finally, one word that comes to mind with your team here at Frostburg is chemistry. How important do you think that is to the team succeeding against Marymount and then potentially in the playoffs in terms of the experience and the time that this group has been together for so long?
Chemistry is something that it's a lot of work. It's like any relationship. Our team works really hard to make sure that everyone is focused on the right things and making sure that they're leaving the things that might be outside factors off the court. And they don't all have to be best friends, and they understand that, but I'm going to tell you they're pretty tight knit group. They're a lot of fun. I genuinely like being around them. Thank goodness, because we spent 12 hours on the bus this weekend.
Yes.
So they're good people and they're funny, and so that chemistry off the court definitely helps us on the court, and hopefully that can help us this weekend when we go against St. Mary's and Marymount.
I hope the season continues, the
Me
big
too.
showdown at Marymount and then at St. Mary's to close it out. Hopefully playoffs next week. Coach Becky Fletcher, thank you for joining us in the Bobcast.
Thank you.
Next in the Bobcast, we have women's soccer head coach Brian Parker. Women's soccer, another really good week. Wins over Penn State, Harrisburg, and Salisbury, moving to 6-1-1 in CAC play. Salisbury and Penn State, Harrisburg, third and fourth in the conference. This win vaults Frostburg over both of them. Coach Parker, is your team peaking at the right time?
Well, obviously, yeah. I mean, it feels pretty good. I mean, there's no question that September prepares us for October and October prepares us for November. And you view the season as an ever, an ascension essentially week to week to play our best soccer. And certainly we're doing things now that we weren't doing early, and I think it feels pretty good.
How is the early season schedule paying dividends?
Well, it kind of ticked us off a little bit. I think that part of it was, the players really not being put off by not getting results and realizing that we have to play really near our maximum potential, every single game if we're going to get results at any point in the schedule. And so that's really what the schedule we have now presents is literally a challenge, a tough team every single week to a week. So I think it was frustrating. The overtime results didn't go our way, and I think we probably let a couple go. But we learned a lot from that. I think keeping our head on straight and just being focused on the future in the conference games was important. And I think the girls have proven they have a good amount of maturity, some mental toughness, and we've been able to shut out some teams and play well at the right time of year. And now the challenge is to keep it going.
Looking at this past week, Penn State Harrisburg, a 2-0 win, 2 late goals in that game. Brooke Shahady this past week, all 3 goals. Danny Ferris, 2 assists on the goals that happened in the flow of play. Starting with Penn State Harrisburg, scoreless for most of that game. How did it all shake out? What was your impression of that contest?
Well, another tough physical team, who had everything to play for. Grass field at their place. It was a beautiful day. In fact, it was a bit warm. If anything, it was maybe a little bit of a disadvantage that we got a little fatigued at the end. Great start to the match. Got good chances. Had the ball a lot. They didn't do anything particularly unusual, but they have some good players, and there were some physical matchups. Would have been nice to get an early goal and take a little pressure off, but we did not. And they seized the momentum in the second half and had a couple of fantastic chances. A rebound that a girl whizzed over. They had a couple of corners that were a challenge. So I think it was a mental test for us, a physical test for us. I think keeping our focus late in the game and just having belief that we were going to get the chances was important, and we did. Great, Danny Ferris to Brooke Shahady goal. The PK was a little odd, frankly. The ball was not as involved as you'd expect in a PK. There was just kind of a collision with our striker and the goalkeeper, and the referee just, he determined that their keeper grabbed our player, and so
You'll take it.
And he called the PK. The ball was 5 steps away at that point. So, Brooke was pretty calm and put the game away, and we felt somewhat fortunate, frankly.
Speaking of moving forward, Salisbury, senior day. You ran through all the seniors last week. It seemed like a really gritty game. We talked at halftime, and you said it was a really ugly-looking first half. How was this team able to rally in the second half and find that goal and find a win in what was a really intense game against a rival?
Yeah, I mean, it had the feel of a boxing match, two teams just kind of punching away and really being disruptive and defensive and kind of frustrating them. I think the challenge in those kinds of games is to sort of match the physical intensity when it's necessary, but also, fight to put the ball on the ground and play soccer and just let our quality and speed of play, dictate, when we can. And so the times we did that, started the game, started the half, we had a lot of success. And then in the early second half moments, we got a terrific goal, again, from, Ferris to Brooke Shahady. So I felt the goal was good. Obviously it's nice when there's not much controversy, clean goal, good run of play goal. And then we defended like mad and just held on to our, to our hats and weathered the storm, so to speak. And the collision with the keeper was odd, sequence of events, but Courtney cleared that ball off the line. Fantastic save. And, again, a gritty, hard fought, but a good win, for so many reasons. Senior day, homecoming, important points in the conference. And so felt like we took a big step forward as a team.
Yeah, you've seen everyone but Southern Virginia in the conference, and outside of Christopher Newport, it's all been wins in one tie. In terms of, we talked about peaking at the right time, but in terms of confidence now down the stretch and going into Southern Virginia, where is your team at mentally?
Well, we'll find out today, I guess, this afternoon. I think our simple focus is that the playoffs begin now, because we have to win that game Wednesday to secure our position in the conference tournament. And so if we don't win that game, we're going to play on Saturday. And so literally we're playing for a weekend off. And at this time of the year, that should be good motivation for our team. I think the other important thing, of course, is to get the bye and get the midweek game at home and make that quarterfinal winner travel to us. And so a lot to play for. And I think our focus really is that we took a good step forward, very emotional weekend, but that's over, and we need to really focus directly on the next challenge Wednesday night.
What does Southern Virginia offer?
They're playing for everything. It is their conference final. I mean, there's a 3 or 4 way battle to get in the conference tournament. A couple teams have not been in it in the last few years, I think since we went to 10 teams. Southern Virginia is one of those teams. They're physical. It's a game at their place. They're trying to continue their season. They've gotten some interesting results this year. They have athletes. I mean, it's going to be a very interesting test, certainly a challenge for us to travel down there and drive and play Wednesday night. And we're doing our research and making sure we'll be ready.
Well, Coach, thank you so much for joining us. Big game on Wednesday, playoffs after that. Thank you for joining us in the Bobcast.
Thanks for your time. Take care.
Next on the Bobcast, we have Frostburg field hockey head coach Caitlin Borman. Field hockey 1-2 in this past week, beating McDaniel at home 2-1, losing on the road to Mary Washington, and then a tough 1-0 overtime loss to Wesley on Sunday. The Bobcats finish up the season this week with Wilson and York, and here with Coach Borman. Let's start with the win over McDaniel. Both goals coming as a result of penalty corners, Molly Pickard scoring one, assisting on Ivy Meisner's goal. How pleased were you with the penalty corner group able to execute on both of those goals?
Yeah, we did a really good job. We knew that we would probably have a good opportunity to score on penalty corners against McDaniel, so the fact that we were able to execute was definitely great.
And looking at that game, jumping out to a 2-0 lead, it seems like playing with a lead is a little bit of a challenge sometimes to keep that intensity and aggressiveness. Sometimes throughout the season, have you seen your team sometimes be surprised to have a lead or have some trouble keeping the intensity or aggressiveness when playing with a 1 or 2 goal lead?
Yeah, I think we're still working on that confidence within ourselves, and because I do believe that we are a better program that we believe we are sometimes. So I do think that that's something we're definitely going to work on for the rest of this season and in the off season. But we've just got to be mentally tougher in those very close games to be able to close out a whole 70 minutes, and we were able to do that against McDaniel, so I was proud of them for that.
Yeah, a couple games come to mind, W&J, Lynchburg, McDaniel, the win. It was pretty cool for you to play against McDaniel where you played against your former coach. You've been an assistant in several places, but thinking back to your time at McDaniel, what are some things you can take from your coach there and you've applied in your own coaching style here at Frostburg?
Yeah, so just taking from there is always working hard, coming to practice and just doing your job at practice, and it'll translate to games. So that was something I was able to take away there.
And it was nice to get a win
Yes,
against
it was.
the former team, the Green Terror. Shifting gears with Frostburg field hockey coach Caitlin Borman. Another really good team in the CAC is Mary Washington. Just a simple question here. What makes Mary Washington such a good program?
They're able to get really good recruits. They're an established program. So they're definitely athletic, and they're pretty established in their ways, and they're a tough team.
And this is a CAC where, 4 of the teams at any time can be ranked in the top 25, and it certainly is a challenge in those only 6 games of conference play. Let's turn towards Sunday, which was a game against Wesley on senior day. A game that was scoreless for regulation. Wesley ends up winning it in overtime. Defensively, you handled the first 22 shots, 12 penalty corners without allowing a goal. What did you make of your team's efforts on senior day?
Yeah, offensively, we just never were able to put it together. We weren't really getting to the places that we needed to be in the circle in order to finally tap one in. But defensively, we did play a fantastic game. Nicole Leety in her senior game played fantastic. Savannah Newbert in her senior game also had a fantastic game defensively. So those two really showing up. I mean, Liz Davis and Ivy Meisner also had great games in their senior game. So it was good for them to be able to play hard in that well, it's not their last home game, but in that last home weekend game in front of a pretty good crowd. So
good. And this is another overtime game. It's your third of the season, and all 3 overtime games have been losses this year. Is it hard to devote practice time to 7-on-7s when you only see it a couple times a year? What's the challenge of being in those overtime games?
We actually do practice overtime a pretty decent amount, and in practice, as of recently, we have been scoring in the first 30 seconds of our overtime practices. So, that was something that the girls really tried to bring up in that after the game in between before overtime started, is that we can do this. We just need to put it together, go up, get our scoring opportunity, and knock it in. It's just not something we were able to do yesterday, but hopefully moving forward as a program, that is, like I said, just closing out those tough games will be something we're really working on.
Speaking of moving forward, this week it's home in a non-conference contest against Wilson College, which looks like a winnable game for your team, and then another tough conference game, a York team that's been receiving top 25 votes, throughout this season. What are you looking for out of your team this week?
I'm looking for our team to just finish strong, finish the season strong. I think it can be hard when you haven't had as many wins in a season, but we have to realize that this is our last week of season, so we just need to finish very strong.
And we hope to look for it. Both games we'll have here on the network, Tuesday against Wilson College, Thursday against York. Caitlin Borman, thank you for joining me.
Thanks.
Next on the Bobcast, we have Frostburg State University football head coach Delane Fitzgerald. The Bobcats moving up a spot to number 15 in the country after defeating Montclair State 62-3. A high for points in the Delane Fitzgerald era, a high for margin of victory in program history. Montclair State, a top 4 team in the conference in terms of its record coming in. Coach, I wasn't expecting that on Saturday. Does your team even surprise you sometimes?
Our coaching staff, and I said this to you a week ago, our coaching staff sits and worries about the distractions of homecoming weekend. We worry about it affecting our young men. There's something going on every evening after practice all week during homecoming. There's something that players have to go to and coaches have to go to, and you just worry about it being all too much. And then the alumni come rolling in on Thursday and Friday, and social life is really, really good here, those nights, and you worry about that getting to the young men. The things that our coaching staff and myself were impressed about was the focus that the 120 men in our football program had every day last week, the focus and preparation, and the rallying cry was be a little bit better than Montclair each day. Let's win the game on Tuesday. Let's win Wednesday, win Thursday, win Friday. We thought the young men did that, and they came out and played really well on Saturday. Wish I'd have got to stick around and see the second half of it, but the young men were good.
It was a 59-point margin of victory, the most in school history. We'll start with Connor Cox, the NJAC Offensive Player of the Week. Another 4 touchdown passes, which gives him 18 for the season, second most in a single season in school history. You always talk about his experienced 28 starts now, and he led over William Patterson and Montclair 10 straight scoring drives with the first-team offense. What can you say about what he's been doing, and is this the offense you envisioned at the beginning of the season?
You sports information guys and you stat guys start throwing out those stats there, and you don't want anybody. Hey, it's like when you're pitching a no-hitter. You don't say anything about it. You don't sit near him. You don't touch him. Yeah, when guys are playing well, just let them play well. Yeah, keep the preparation the exact same as it was the week before and let them play well. And I said this before now, and I said it before the season ever started. When Connor's on, he's on. And when Connor's playing well, Connor's the best player on our team, best player in this conference. He needs to continue to do that because all of us, myself and you and everybody else in the world, we're just a couple days with lax focus away from not being able to do our job as well as we're capable of. But now Connor's been good this fall, and we expect it to continue.
Coach, we've been talking, offense this year because guys have been putting up great numbers, but I feel like and this is on me and Dan, we haven't talked enough about your defense where, you're top 5 in the country in run defense, third down, tackles for loss. Another great day against Montclair, 16 tackles for loss, 1 for 13, third down. This is your chance. Your defense has lived up to really lofty expectations so far. What can you say about their effort for the whole 60 minutes on Saturday?
Well, our offense has deserved the accolades this fall, and our offense has sit and listened to everybody over the last couple of years talk about how good our defense is, and now we're pretty evenly matched offense and defense, which is what a championship team and a really good football team is. They're good on offense, defense, and special teams. Talking about our defense and some of the stats and how well they're playing right now, we're anchored by Niles up front, and Niles needs to play a little better than he has the last couple of weeks. But the one thing that's happening with him is he's being double teamed on every single play, which is allowing those other 3 guys up front to make plays and run loose because they know they're going to be blocked one-on-one each game. Coach Kelling's done a great job with the defense, and he's doing a nice job with the linebackers, and we've got 3 linebackers each week that are playing well. The funny thing about this fall as compared to years past, each week it's usually 1 or 2 different guys. Different guys are stepping up each week at the linebacker position and playing well. And then we've got a veteran group in the secondary. They should be good. They know the expectations are really, really high for them. But when you're a 3- and 4-year starter at your position, and Vinny Persichetti started I know he's just a sophomore, but he started now 16 out of 17 games. They should be good. Our defensive backs are in the same position that Connor's in at the quarterback position. That they've been through the conference 1, 2, 3 times now. They've seen all the defenses, been against all the defensive coordinators and offensive coordinators. They've seen everything that the opposing team is going to throw at them. They should be good at it because they don't have to think as much. They can just run and play.
How often do you put first-team offense and first-team defense against each other, play good on good?
Dan's phone is going off, and his father is calling right now. Dan, I think we should patch your dad in. Is that a no? Okay.
Unfortunately not. No Mr. Wallace sighting on the Bobcast.
They're not going to let us patch Mr. Wallace in and get his take on the game on Saturday. We watched it. Okay.
But back to Frostburg practice, you got 2 great units. How often do you play good on good
Got three
throughout the week.
Three great units, Andy. And let's hold off on that great word. We're good on offense. We're good on defense, and our special teams playing well right now. There's things to fix, on all three of those. But we've got to be better on kickoff team than we've been the last couple of weeks. Those young men, we watched film yesterday, and they understand our expectations on kickoff. But we need to be better there. But we've got three good units. Now, what was the question?
How often do you play the first team against the first team?
All the time.
All the time?
All the time. All the time. We go sudden change each week and do some fourth down situations and do some red zone situations, and we'll back the offense up, put them on the 2-yard line and make them come out, where the goal is to get 2 first downs. You get 2 first downs, and then you try to go score, but getting the 2 first downs at least flips the field. Mm-hmm. Us doing that, and then the one we do the most all the time is we'll go ones against ones and do do 2-minute drill. And we'll put a minute 45 seconds on the clock, give each side one timeout and tell the offense they're down 4, and we go play. We try as much as possible to put our players in real-life situations. Each day of the week there's a focus. One day we work first down. One day we work second and short, second and medium, second and long. And then on Thursdays we go, third and short, third and medium, third and long. But we work situations each day.
Number 1 in the NJAC, third down offense, third down defense. Why is that?
Yeah, testament to our coordinators. Ty Hyde's done a great job and become a very, very good offensive coordinator. John Kelling's a good defensive coordinator. It's a testament to them. And we talked about the situations. Wednesday and Thursday each week, we work third down situations. We practice it all the time. So when we get into 3rd and 3, well, our players have run 20 plays in 3rd and 3 all week against the defense that we're going to face that weekend. We get in 3rd and 7, we know exactly what the opposing defense is going to do, and then the players have taken 20 plays against that defense. They've ran 20 plays against it, and it's just comfortable. It's comfortable. And then, the last thing is we have older, experienced players. We don't get rattled by game situations.
Looking ahead to Southern Virginia, you're a logistics guy. You know all the bus ride times and when you're coming back, and Friday night, how does that shake things up?
The bus ride time, it is 205 miles from Frostburg State's campus to Southern Virginia's campus, and over disclosure on the Bobcast, but that's home. It's my adopted home. I was born and raised in Nelson County, Virginia, and Buena Vista is just across the mountain from Nelson County. The Blue Ridge Mountains actually separate the two counties. But anyway, that's my adopted home. I could probably get in my car right now and turn it on, and my car would drive me to Buena Vista, and I never have to touch the steering wheel.
How about that? Well, how does that affect a football team?
Yeah, the guys know that Friday night's important to me. Our offense, Ty Hyatt, Coach
graduate.
Coach Hyatt's a graduate of Southern Virginia. Coach Hyatt was an All-American wide receiver for us there in 2008. It's important to us. And in the same token now, there's 6 or 8 players on Southern Virginia's roster that we recruited there. So it's probably pretty important for them to play well on Friday night also. How do I think it affects our players? I think we have older, mature players that handle their business in an adult manner. And I think our guys are going to line up today and try to be better than Southern Virginia today. We're going to line up tomorrow, and our meeting and practices tomorrow, we're going to try to be better than Southern Virginia tomorrow, and we'll do that through the week, and then let's go out and play on Friday night. Southern Virginia poses some interesting problems for us. The first midline triple team we're going to see this year. We thought we may get some midline triple option against William Patterson 2 weeks ago, but that didn't happen. But Southern Virginia is going to line up under center and run midline triple against us, and they'll get in the gun and do some things also. But their offense is very, very similar to the service academies, what they're running now, Army, Navy, Air Force. Georgia Tech's famous for running it, but we're going to see that. Our defense has to run around, play assignment football this week. And then offensively, Southern Virginia's defense is very similar to Montclair's defense. So that part of the preparation will help us a little bit. How do I think our players are going to handle it? I think we're going to be fine on Friday night.
Well, Coach, another week, another win, 6-1. Thank you so much for joining us in the Bobcast.
Andy and Dan, I appreciate y'all having me. Thank you.